Hi, Shalom. This is my second Victober 2025 video. I will link the first video down below. In this video, I will be sharing my TBR list for the readathon. That stands for To Be Read. Some booktubers are calling it a pile of possibilities, but becoming vision impaired means I am tragically no longer surrounded by physical piles of books. So TBR list it is. The Victober hosts have created a list of prompts called the Victo Bingo Challenge. I'll post a link to Katie Lumsden's channel Books and Things, and you can print out the bingo card if you so choose. And if a book fulfills more than one prompt on the bingo card, that's okay. One second here, let me adjust the teleprompter. There we go. Part of making Victober accessible for myself is being realistic about the length of my TBR list. So I am only going to be sharing prompts for the books on my list, and I probably won't get to every book. And I will also be sharing what apps and platforms I'll be using for each book. The first prompt is to read a book about friendship. For that one, I chose Shirley by Bronte. I'd actually never heard of it until Katie Lumsden mentioned it, so I'm excited to give it a go. I will be reading this on Kindle and pairing it with the audio on the audiobooks app. Prompt number 2 is to read something that is not a novel. I will be reading A Minor Poet by Amy Levy, and I'll be reading that one on Kindle. I haven't read or written poetry in years, and I'd love to get back to both, so maybe this will inspire me. I might also read The Secret Diaries of Miss Anne Lister. I will be reading that on Kindle without audio. I have not been able to find the audio on any of my current apps, other than Audible, which I don't have at present. Anne Lister was a queer woman who wrote about her relationships with other women, often code for obvious reasons. And I think there's at least one biopic about her now, so I'll have to look into that. The next prompt I'm doing is Spotting Signs of Empire. I had chosen The Moonstone by Wilke Collins, but in the interest of full transparency, I'm not going to finish the book. I really like the premise, but the writing is drier than my skin, if you can imagine that. I've never read Wilke Collins before, and I've heard some of his stuff is pretty boring. I did order the BBC adaptation from the library, which I'm cautiously optimistic about. The BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, has some great period adaptations, and talented actors can sometimes bring meh books to life. So we'll see what we see. The next prompt is to read a work by an underrated woman writer. For that, I chose Hester by Margaret Oliphant, which I will be reading on Kindle Unlimited without audio unless it becomes available in one of my resources. The next prompt is to read a book where education is a prominent subject. For that, I chose Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I read it a while ago and loved it, so I'm excited to read it again. I will be reading the ebook on Kindle and using Levy or the audiobooks app for the audio. The next prompt I'm doing is read a book set in a different era. Shirley fulfills that prompt. It's written in the Victorian period, but takes place in the early 19th century around Jane Austen's time. So 20 plus years before the start of the Victorian era. The next prompt I'm doing is to read a fantasy or paranormal work. For that one, I will be reading Dracula, which I will most assuredly be reading in broad daylight. The last thing this brain needs is more nightmare fuel. If you didn't know that Dracula was a classic novel before Hollywood messed with it, now you do. I might also try Woman in White by Wilke Collins. As said, Wilke Collins is extremely hit or miss, so we will see what we see. Okay, that is a wrap on my Victober TBR. If you've read any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts, and feel free to share what's on your TBR list. Thanks for watching. Bye! If you enjoyed this video, please do me a huge favor and hit the thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon. LinkTree. Bye.